whoa, this is freaking awesome. Just, I hear nothing from the outside. Forgive me for still just being shocked at how quiet this car never experienced anything like it, truly. It's weird. It's like I'm in a sound chamber. There's no echo. It's crazy. Oh, there's a lot of massages to choose from. This requires a lot of testing. Hello and welcome to beautiful, serene Palm Springs, California. I'm up in the hills, almost at 6,000 feet of elevation right now, where you join me with the BMW i7. This is the top of the line luxury sedan that is fully electric from BMW. It's just launching. I can't wait to tell you all about it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. First, I'm going to take you on a full tour of the i7. Then we're of course going to drive it in the city. We're going to see how it feels around town, test all the low speed motor calibration. Then we're going to get on the highway, test its automated driving functions, its assisted driving function. It's actually hands-free eye tracking up to about 85 miles an hour, which is very impressive. Then we're going to come up here into the canyons and of course send it on some great roads. It's a BMW, so it needs to handle well. So, of course, you're going to get my very first few inches in the car, just my first time driving it, which will be a little bit back in time. But what do you say I start up here in the beautiful hills, taking you on a full tour of this thing, then we'll go back in time for the full driving review. So how about some specs on the 7? Well, first off, battery pack is 101.7 kilowatt hour usable. Very sizable. Interestingly, it's, I think, 105-ish. I didn't get the full number, but it's around 105 gross capacity. So very small buffers on this thing. BMW does recommend an 80% daily charging limit in the car. That's what it says to daily charge to, or on road trips especially. They top charge pretty slow, according to the charging curves and everything. So this is really an 80% car. It's not nearly as bad as I think Mach-E or some of these other cars that really limit their top charging. And sorry a little bit for the background noise here. I found the most secluded spot I could, but it's not perfect, of course. And so I think, okay, that's pretty interesting. 80% industry standard now, 80 or 90% for charging. Even the BMW engineers were like, if you full charge it every day, it's really not going to do too much to the battery pack. They did leave enough in there for safety. So we have two electric motors, non-permanent magnet. They're externally excited asynchronous electric motors, but basically an induction motor. And in principle, there's no rare earth materials in the rotor on the magnets themselves. That is good, A, for environmental stuff, and B, also for efficiency on the highway. There's two different gear ratios here, front to rear, also different powers. The rear motor is more powerful by about 100 horsepower than the front motor. In total, about 544 horsepower here, which is, pretty spicy. So that's good. But I also do want to mention before anything else is the M70, the top spec of all 7 Series models, will be a fully electric model as the class leader. Nice, ripping the GTI, love it. So the M70 will be the top version. It's going to come after launch. I'm looking forward to trying that, and that's going to be really the flagship BMW in the lineup. And so you can definitely tell, okay, from a performance standpoint, they probably left some on the table. This is ultimate cruiser, ultimate luxury here. The other benefit of having non-permanent magnet motors is you can actually basically shut them off without flex-related losses. We talk a lot about this when we do our range testing. This car will prioritize rear axle as your primary axle. The front axle is the secondary axle. And so cruising on the highway, it's pretty much rear-wheel drive. Of course, when you need more throttle or a slippery situation happens, there's no need for a disconnect like Ioniq 5 has, like a few other cars have. You can just basically turn that motor on instantly and boom, you're all-wheel drive, no notice to the driver. So I really like that. There's also been some adaptations from the previous generation 7 Series, of course, for noise, vibration, harshness. Just to give you, I could give you a million examples, but just one of them, the air chamber that houses the air compressor and the compressed air for the air suspension is now larger and at higher pressure so that the compressor has to run for less amount of time. When that compressor does run, it's actually isolated even more than the previous one, so you can barely hear it. So they've really gone to just extreme lengths to work on the noise and the overall luxury experience of this thing. And my impression just being around the car is just a sense of build quality, a sense of, okay, 900 people named Klaus worked on every single little thing in here. But that's not to say it's all perfect. I do just want to take you on a quick exterior and interior tour, and by quick, it's probably going to be 15 minutes, but I want to show you some of the gadgets, some of the stuff that's going on in here, but you'll have to wait for our full in-depth review, which I'm certainly going to do when we get this car to Colorado for all of our range testing, charging testing. By the way, I should mention charging actually and range. Range is 318 miles, and the EPA cycle is what they expect to get it. I don't think it's actually been EPA certified yet, but around there, so that's pretty good. Okay, right up there. We've seen from BMW iX and others actually matching that on the highway. BMWs are very efficient at high speed. That goes from their plug-in hybrids all the way to their electric vehicles. So that's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to trying this out. Few different wheel size options here. This one's on the 21-inch wheels, but there's a whole bunch of different designs, and the range does change from, I believe, high 200s to low 300-mile EPA estimated based off of what wheels you choose. I do like that BMW does break it down by wheel size and by wheel design, which is pretty nice. Yeah, so price, $151,000 as tested, range 300 something miles. Battery pack 101.7 usable. I like that they quote usable capacity. Next up would be the charging. 195 kilowatt peak charging. My guess is we'll see 200 kilowatts. It's a 400 volt class system vehicle, relatively low. I think it's 380 volt nominal, needs a full 500 amps to get the charging. We'll talk about that a little bit when we drive on the highway. I'll mention some of the charging characteristics, but now you have an idea of where we're at. Certainly not class leading from a charging perspective. Everything else though, oof, I cannot wait to show you how this thing drives. It might be the most mind-blowing experience I've ever had. It was crazy. So we're going to go back in time in just a little bit after this tour, where you'll join me for my first experience behind the wheel. I'm still just left in shock after how insanely good this car is. I want to say a huge thank you to Magna for sponsoring this video. Guys, every week I thought it'd be pretty cool to highlight a specific Magna innovation, and in this case I want to talk about seats. Now, seats may not sound that interesting, but Magna's actually developed a really cool technology called Freeform. Now, traditionally seat covers need to be stitched and sewed and hooked and looped in certain places whenever you want to tie down the material or have some sort of concave surface. But with a new innovation called Freeform, the material itself can actually be molded to whatever shape you'd like. For example, take a look at this diamond pattern. When have you ever seen a fully embossed diamond pattern with no stitching? It's crazy. It's going to lead to the next generation of interior materials. I've actually even had a chance to try this out. And what's even crazier is the seat structure was the same as the factory OE spec. Freeform allowed the entire seat to feel and mold differently than the original seat. It was really crazy. Take a look at my reaction here. Let's see how this all... Okay, totally different, first of all. But it's the same seat structure.
It's the guts of the seat the production seat.
Whoa, totally different. So a huge thank you to Magna for sponsoring this video. We'll have a full in-depth video with Magna seating specifically on Freeform coming to this channel very soon. I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. So let's start, I guess, back to front in this case. I'm going to show you inside the trunk here, and you can tell it's an electric model because it has the blue rim over the BMW logo. So you hit this little button, dead silent motor for the trunk activation. The i7 actually has a smaller trunk than the plug-in hybrid, and that's smaller than the full combustion version, but I can't really seem to think that this is that small of a trunk here. Let's take a look at the included charging cable is my guess as to what's in here. So let's see how the heck do we even get in here. What? There we go. That's wrapped up nicely. So we have some instructions, a whole bunch of additional adapters that I guess you can get. That's pretty neat. There we go. NEMA 1450. And here we go. NEMA 520. And it should do the full 12 amps on 110 volts. So that's pretty neat. I like that. That looks good. Another thing I should mention about the charging flap, since we're working our way around the side, really nice sizable trunk area, I think. If we look in here, you'll have your AC and DC pins. No one does this better than BMW. This flap activation just works wonderfully. You can just say if you want both, pull the bottom. If you just want to close it, you can hit the top. If you want the top there, you can leave this one closed and have your top. It's really amazing. 48 amp onboard charger, so that's what, 11, 12 kilowatts, somewhere around there. For AC charging, again, 195 kilowatt peak DC charging. Those are okay numbers, but for a flagship vehicle, certainly not class leading. For example, Cadillac Lyriq will have 80 amp charging at a much lower price point. That's 19.2 kilowatts. Now, is that so needed for most people? I don't think so, but the Germans seem to not be getting on board with the high capacity onboard chargers yet, and this is certainly no exception. Also, not a high voltage system. So again, 195 kilowatt peak charging. My understanding is actually no plug-in charge capability at Electrify America at launch. Perhaps through an update it will come. Some of the folks here weren't really charging experts on the car, but they were not aware of plug-in charge coming in a future update. I've heard it's coming for iX. My guess is it will come for this car. We'll have to see, but it does get 3 years of free unlimited charging at EA. So that means no 30-minute cap. You can full charge this thing. Now, I don't recommend it. Use it only for road trips. I don't think many 7 Series owners are going to be trying to sip free electricity. I think they'll probably be charging at home for the most part, but that's a little perk if you own one of these things, but just use it wisely. In terms of these wheels, I really love this spec, 21-inch wheels on this particular one. I believe 22's optional, extra, and so yeah, looking pretty good. We're on a Pirelli Scorpion tire, or excuse me, a Pirelli P0 tire. That's a OE specific tire. It's a, most German manufacturers do an OE specific tire. You can see ultrasonics down the whole side of the car here. This is probably one of the weakest parts of the design, I would say. I wish they found a way to hide those behind different things. For example, Model X has the little cone in the rear door. You can see sensors here on the doors because yes, they are automatic doors. I'll show you that. You just click this little button and the door takes a minute, but it does open up. And then to close it, all you have to do, forgive some of the traffic, is push that button again, maybe a little bit harder than I just did. And now, come on, you should do it. I find the door activation to be, yeah, there we go. Kind of clunky. It doesn't work that seamlessly. It's a little bit slower than using a normal door. And the one thing that I don't like about it, and I have this issue with Model X, I had this issue on European spec EQS that has the power doors, which hasn't come to America yet. When I open it manually like this, and I want to move it quickly, hear it binding up on the electric motor there. To me, just a little bit of a rough feeling. But when you do open the doors and you take a look inside this cabin, I chose this particular one to review because I'm just in love with this interior. You have, first of all, very high pile carpet here. That feels really wonderful. You have a very nice looking interior. Take a look at this. It's a wool and leather combination, and I highly recommend getting this combination if you're speccing an i7. And if you are speccing an i7, just a little teaser for the driving review, you will be one of the happiest people on the planet because this drives like nothing else. It's truly next level. I love this metal finish, true metal here with Great's laser cut. Really nice wool through here. Relatively small door pockets, but certainly usable. Very similar to iX, you have the crystal shifter here. I think you can option it without the crystal stuff. I'm not sure if you can do that in comparison or in combination with the wool interior. Let me show you the back seat. 7 Series is long wheelbase only. That to me just seems too slow. Don't you guys think? Just let me get in the car. I don't know. We have little pads in here, control panels. I'll definitely show you how that all works. You'll take a look at the back seats, really nicely designed seats. These seats on the passenger side actually have a little leg extension, which is cool, but not here on the driver. The idea is the passenger seat can fly forwards, and this is the lounge, and then over here is not the case for that. If we take a look in here, you'll see a wireless charger, and we'll do, full exploring, but nice deep area, USB-C ports, and I believe power delivery USB-C ports as well. Of course, with any new 7 Series or any new luxury electric vehicle, it takes a long time to explain all the work and all of the specs and numbers. So these are typically long videos when we review these cars because there's just so much to get into. And honestly, I'm only scratching the surface. Usually when a new car launches, just as an example, you typically see a 3, 4, 5-page press release. Here are the specs. This one, almost 70 pages of very small font and below single spaced of just pure data number specs. And I love that BMW was really transparent about everything in this car here. You can see a glass roof in this particular vehicle. Also the BMW theater screen. We'll touch on that here just momentarily. But just to finish up our exterior review, let's see, is there a little hood release? There is. I'm curious to see what's under there. Of course, this being a combustion vehicle adapted for electric, I have no idea what's under here actually. So let's take a look. How do we, oh, it's a double pull because it's a BMW. Let's go back and do that. I do love their double pull activation. I'm surprised they let you open the hood on this. You know, BMW iX is built on a bespoke electric platform that's not designed to house combustion engines. So there's no front trunk on that particular one. And under here, a whole lot of plastic. So let's see what we can see. We can see our strut tops right over here. We can see a bunch of plastic. Can we, oh yes, we can pull up on this. Yes, here we go. Good stuff. Wow, look at that rattling. It's on isolation mounts, but you can see it moving. Your AC compressor up here, or probably a heat pump, guess probably. We have an inverter up there. Power electronics, your front motor just down below. Very interesting. You can see the strut brace going across. That's a little bit odd, but I don't mind it. I'm a fan of strut braces. You can see the double ones right here. So a lot of chassis stiffness stuff going on here. You can see a 12 volt there, your fireman cut loop over here, cooling systems. But I think this is maybe a downside of the car, that it's not adapted or built to be a fully electric vehicle exclusively. Now the battery pack is underneath the floor. One thing I think we should mention, I think it's really cool. The plug-in hybrid version has a 19 kilowatt hour pack. We don't get it in the US, but it's the only time I've seen a plug-in hybrid that actually uses the electric floor plan. So what it does is it uses the battery pack in the floor of the vehicle up to about here, and then you get a little bit bigger trunk space. But yeah, it uses the same battery housing as the battery electric. That kind of makes sense. That's kind of cool, but I don't know. I think if you're getting one of these, the full electric is the way to go, especially where 7 Series isn't the massive road tripper for everyone. It's more of a commuter. It's a stately vehicle to drive around town, commute into the metropolitan area to your business office. I think you just go electric. That's my impression after driving the gas one. And I drove the V8 gas, and this is just smokes it. It's so much better. But yeah, I want to grab some photos underneath the hood now that we removed that plastic. Let's jump in the back and start playing around with that theater screen. And just to give you a little bit better view of under the hood, here you go. Here's everything. Maybe your onboard charger right here, liquid cooled. Yeah, so they definitely just stuffed all the electric components up under here. And I think if they adapted it, they probably could have made some room for a front trunk. Personally, I don't actually mind not having a front trunk. I own multiple vehicles with them and I never end up using them. But I do know a lot of our audience loves front trunks. So I always try and advocate for them, even though I'm not particularly that bothered when a car doesn't have it. But we've seen a huge trend from the Germans across all car makers to not offer a very large front trunk or a front trunk at all. And yeah, curious to see what you guys think about it. So time to jump into the back now. I think if I triple click the lock button, it will precondition. Sounds like it is. And then I can click unlock, and I can either open the door manually here, or I can press the button, back away, let it scan, and then it will open up. And oh, nice 100 series going there. Nice LX, love that. And then to close the rear door, I think I just click this little button right here. And there we go. Wow, what an experience already it is back here. First of all, these headrests are truly insane. Pillows with that wool material, I really love that. I look up here and I see a very nice Alcantara headliner, lighting controls. I can tell the sunshade's closed, and then we have the screen here. The screen is a big thing BMW is trying to push, but I'm not totally into it. So let's hit fold down. Please move the front seat forwards to ensure the theater screen is not blocked. Well, how do I do that? So, lock, unlock, window, brightness up, home, seats, adjustment. So, do I hit this one? That's the front seat. Or maybe it's not. Set default seat position. So that one just moved up a little bit. Can I do the same thing on this side? Seats. Adjustment. Aha, you cannot. That only adjusts the back seat. And I think the back seat in easy entry is in the way of the screen. We got to figure out all these things can do because this is pretty neat. But let's see. Climate control. Nope. Fire TV. Fold down. Nope. Got to move the front seat up. So what I'm going to do now is hit this button, and that's going to automatically open the door, versus that button, which just releases the latch, versus this button, which mechanically releases the latch. So you have 3 door opening selections here. You have the normal one, which just pops the door. You have this one, which is your emergency latch. And then you have the automatic door function. And if you hit any of them, I guess it stops the door. What we're going to do now is move the driver's seat forwards, which it only seems to do this in easy entry because I was able to fold down the seat from my normal seating position. We're going to move the seat up and out of the way. There we go. Should we also turn on the car so we have full everything running? There we go. Full on. Let's jump around to the back. There we go. Nice auto close. Whoops. It's all new to me. So here we are. Now I'm going to hit fold down. Okay. And it even moves forwards. The rear shade also went up at the same time. I don't know why the car is constantly dinging, but I do think that there's, different zooms, which is interesting. There's also seat. All right, what can we do here? Fire TV, telephone, wireless charging, dial. So you could connect a phone. This is really wild. Seats. Let's see what we can do to adjust these. I think we should go to full airline mode. Set lounge position. So that one's moving up and out of the way. This is pretty interesting. Oh boy. Setting lounge position. That's going. Aha. It says, is your view of the exterior mirror obstructed by the passenger seat? Please move the passenger seat back if it's obstructing your view. And no question it would be obstructing your view to the mirror. This is the driver's head position. And now my footrest is coming up. Whoa. I feel like I'm on an airplane. What the heck is going on here? And now my seat's moving back. Headrest is coming up. I have a full TV situation going here. This pad has come up. And so now I am wearing socks. They're just short socks. I ran out of long ones. Don't judge me. Holy smokes. I'm full lounge. Full lounge in the 7 Series right now. Got my head in the pillow. Oh my God, this is the most comfortable thing. The seat's still moving, actually. Just came up to match my leg position. Position reached. I think this is one of the best things I've ever experienced. So I can also go for a massage back here, which I definitely want. Let's see, massage downward. Oh, there's a lot of massages to choose from. This requires a lot of testing. I think we should go for a pressure point massage on full intensity at full speed. Oh, yes. And I have the nice BMW chime going. I don't know why it's going, because I have all the doors shut. But it's mad at me for something. Wow, this is a great place to hang out, isn't it? You can see speakers up in the headliner. I think 32 speakers, 1900 watts in total. Honestly, I did play around with the sound system a little bit after the drive. It sounds great at low volume. I think iX actually has a little bit more punch. We can close all, which will roll up the side windows as well as the little back ones. So that's nice. So now I'm in a full cocoon. Wow, this is the place to be. I kind of want this car. We have lights, reading lights we can choose. What the heck? Brightness, color temperature from warm to cool. How about that? ambiance. Oh, we can change the color of the lighting. How about that? Full brightness on, let's go BMW I Blue. We'll go with that. We have volume for headphones or the speakers in the car. Wow, this is cool. And full climate control. And I have heated or AC seats, which I've just kicked on the AC seats. And of course, there's more settings as to I want my butt cooled more or my back cooled more or somewhere in the middle. I mean, this is the level of integration that's crazy. The one weird thing is the window control is actually here on the side instead of here placed down. Or even weirder, it's not in the touchscreen. I can also control the left side versus the right side of the seat. So that's pretty nice. All right, so no swipe down menus, none of that stuff. My modes, you can change the mode of the car. We've put it into relax mode, which also changes the driving dynamic. So if you have kids, don't let them have access to that one. But overall, wow, just call me impressed back here. This is cool. And then to exit, all I'm going to do is click this little button. Oh, I see my seat automatically moves to a more comfortable position. So now I have to sit here and wait while people are presumably waiting for me. And the seat movement isn't stopped yet. There we go. Also, vents here you can just control, not electrically, but with this really nice little touchpad. I showed you the USB ports in the back. Nice little storage area right here. Yeah, right underneath. And then in here, of course, you have the 2 USB-C ports. That's kind of nice. Cup holders back here. Not sure if I'm seeing them. I must be missing them because there's got to be cup holders in the back of a 7 Series. If not, biggest fail. I feel like this definitely, oh yeah, extends. There we go. Boom. Cup holders. I knew there had to be there. That's freaking crazy. Okay, well, that's been a wonderful experience. Oh, check that thing out. Nice dually, big tires. That's a sick little work truck right there. So, there we go. That was the exterior and interior tour for 150 grand. I just can't get over the quality, the crystal headlights, using literally Swarovski crystals in the headlights, giving it this wild effect. To me, just insane. And you know, to think that I personally, you know, I spent about 150 grand on my Model S Plaid. This is so much car. It shows you how silly I am to spend all that money on acceleration. I do love that. So let's go show you the front seats here really quick. I'm gonna click this button. I'm gonna stand out of the way. Gonna wait for it to open. In we go now to the front seats. I actually can see the mirror if the seat's all the way forward, so that's not bad. So I think you can easily actually drive with the seats like this, surprisingly. So quite a lot of room. Seat adjustment not possible because of the theater screen. So what I'm going to do is fold up the theater screen. You cannot see anything behind you if the theater screen is down. All right, stop dinging. Why are we still dinging? Oh, it's the mirror of the obstructing view. Done. I'm on one of the best driving roads filming this. It's just an insane day. Okay, so now I can use the crystal shifter to go back. I can adjust the massage that I'm looking for up here by clicking this button and going to massage, and I can choose, yeah, whole body activation, of course. I also want to go to front passenger seat and set seat position, and I'm going to, oh, I don't want to save it, but I want to go to default position for the passenger seat so it quickly folds back out of my way. And by quickly, I mean very slowly. Down here, you have all of your controls, like for everything, same as BMW iX. And so you have auto hold on or off, you have park, you have your shifter. Right here, you just pull back to go into drive, pull back for B mode. We'll talk about that when we drive it. Your start-stop function right here. You have your lift for off-road height, or if you just need to clear an obstacle. Very quiet, very fast lift. You have some modes here for driver assistance, for drive modes, for, you know, if you're stuck in snow or sand. You also get your charging settings, which are pretty neat. You can set your charging limit to anywhere from, I think, 10, 20% lowest, all the way up in 5% increments to 100% state of charge. There's also a fan loudness setting that BMW EVs have that I find very interesting, where if you're in a quiet environment and you don't want the car to make a lot of noise with a fan, you can put it on restricted and it'll just keep it at the maximum thermal temperature and slow down the charging process. There's also a manual battery preconditioning. And so, you know, you can, anytime you select a charging station in the screen here, we'll do automatic route calculation and guidance. And it's better than iX, actually. I can't show you here because we're not in cell connectivity, although maybe I can. Let's just try it really quick. So let's end this. Let's go to destination input and let's go to Fort Collins, Colorado. Ooh, didn't really get the space there, so it can't go super fast typing with it. Fort Collins, Colorado. He wants to go to King Soopers in Fort Collins. Okay, sure. Let's do it. So start calculating route. And let's see. Your range is not sufficient. Why did the voice person come up? Charging stops required 5. Yes, show me the charging stops. That happened pretty quickly. And because there's no connectivity, it's going to, it's going to make me select them manually. But if you do this when you're connected, then it should just pop, just like we've seen with iX, and apparently it's much better optimized here. So we'll definitely dig into this when we test it, but I think that's a really great, great feature here. So let's cancel that. So there you go. That's the i7 interior. We've gone through iDrive 8 in many cars. It's no different really than iX. You have a whole bunch of different configurable menu items here. You have your entire list of functions right here if you want that. You can watch YouTube on the front screen, which I really like. So you can pull this up and hit start on YouTube. Of course, I'm in the mountains right now, no cell connectivity up here, but this is where you can go through and connect everything. Again, not worth really going into right now. If I change the modes, I just want to show you these really quick. These are the modes right now. More can come over time, but personal is the one that it starts up in. Typically, you can change the actual start mode. Relax is what we're in right now. I don't like the gauge cluster in relax. I think it's a little bit annoying. Personally, I go to personal and then I get power output and speed, everything I like right there. And there's so much to get into with this car, but ultimately, I say we just load up, go for a drive. Let's start cruising in the i7. And welcome to the inside of the BMW i7. I feel very comfortable in here. Although I will say I drove the combustion one yesterday just to have a quick go, and I'm fairly certain I was able to sit a tiny bit lower in that car. However, compared to almost any other electric car, I am sitting right on the ground, nice eye level right out of the hood, very stately driving experience, almost a little Rolls-Royce-esque as to how high the hood is in this. It's really imposing. So, you know, in terms of seating position and just touch and feel of everything, this one has the optional almost $5,000 Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which highly recommend. Just the metal grates, the materials are nice. I specifically, again, chose this car because of this wool interior. And to me, I love this textile feel. I think it's really nice. I think leather is no longer the premium choice. I think it's a lot of these new textile materials. Quite a bit of piano black around, but like that's okay. We'll see if these glass controls blind me like they did in the iX. But steering wheel, okay. Odd shape, not loving that. Not as bad as iX. It's still more traditional. Love the center bit. Still no distance control I'm noticing for the adaptive cruise control. We're going to do a ton. So this is going to be, again, a super long nerd video, like I keep saying. But ultimately, I want to give you guys the best impression of the 7 Series that I can. And so now it's time to drive it. What we're going to do is we're going to first head out in city roads over to probably the highway. Once we're on the highway, we'll try a lot of the automated driving, see the noise levels, and just get an idea of how this thing cruises and wafts in normal and efficiency mode. Then I think I'm going to take a route back through the mountains and see how agile it is. Again, it's a BMW. It should be fun to drive. So that's sort of the idea here. And now it's time to sort of get going and drive the i7. You can see a bunch of i7s around us. This one's having rear steer going. Again, 3.5 degrees of rear steer really helps quite a bit. So let's see if we can just kind of inch away and go for a cruise. We got to check out, let them know that I've selected this car. Wow. First of all, first inches is creep up to about 5 miles an hour. Okay, but I just have it in normal drive in adaptive regen mode following a Rolls-Royce Ghost. B mode does hold you, just like the iX, same tuning, at a complete stop with one pedal driving. So I think what I'll do first is probably drive not in one pedal driving, try the adaptive, then we'll do all the one pedal driving tests and see how that does. So let's let them know we're taking this one.
Hi, Kyle.
Hey there.
Getting all set up?
Yep.
Set up shop.
Yep.
All right, you are all set, Kyle. Let me see the time. All right, thank you,
Okay,
Kyle.
thanks so much. I'll be gone for probably a couple hours in this one.
Okay.
Yep, thanks. Okay, so let them know, taking it for a little while. They're so nice. Wow, rear steer instantly noticeable. You know, there's a couple different ways to tune rear steering. And the first thing we have to do is turn this lady off. How do we do that? Destination input, spoken instructions off. So what we're going to do is talk rear steer for a second. So rear steer, couple ways to tune it. The first is you have your maximum allowable degree, and mostly this is measured from on center to a point. So in this car, it's from on center to about 3.5 degrees of steer. That's your rear steering angle. However, it also matters where in the steering rack this happens. For example, EQS has 10 degrees of rear steer, but instantly I can tell you, just inching it around a parking lot, it actually has similar tuning. Now, my feeling is that this will get maxed out quicker than the Mercedes, but interesting that they put it at the first bit of the steering so you really get this effect, rather than putting it, you know, when you're 75% of the way turned and it starts to kick in. So adaptive regen here, I'd actually touched the brake pedal and now it's holding the car back at that speed. It doesn't seem to be increasing speed at all. That's very interesting. If I hit the throttle, we're back to coasting. But if I'm on the brakes to, let's just say 45 miles an hour, 44 miles an hour, my understanding is that it won't let us go any faster than that now. So you just hold, you bring it down to a certain speed. We'll try it just one more time through here. So coming through at about 50 miles an hour on the brakes to about, I don't know, 44, 43, and now it's just holding us right there. That's a great feature. So already liking the adaptive regen. We have to do all the one pedal driving tests. So I'm actually just going to pull in right over here. And prohibited to use as a through street. Well, watch us. Pretty sure we're gonna do that. But what I want to do is inch around and do all the low speed tests. So let's do that first. First of all, yeah, so you get this big initial hit of rear steer, big initial hit, and then once you're about halfway, it kind of goes away and you're like, oh, okay. So that's where the Mercedes has the advantage over this, past that. But honestly, this is more than enough. I'm trying to think, Porsche has like 1.6 degrees of rear steer in Taycan as a optional extra. It's actually a very reasonably priced option in that car, and I thought that was pretty good. As long as you feel like the rear's coming around, that's fine. 10 degrees might be too much for a lot of people. This, I think, is a really nice situation. So let's first start in normal key up setting. That's how we're driving to start. Whole bunch of different drive modes, and I'll walk you through those as time goes on. But I'm going to lift off the brake pedal. We're not going anywhere because I'm in auto hold. Let's turn auto hold off. So creeping at pretty high rate of creep speed, good acceleration there to 4 miles an hour. So creep targets 4 mph. The one thing also is the rear sun blinds. I want to lower them because I can't see out the back. And I want the sunroof, I'm gonna actually keep closed because of the sun's position for the cameras. But what's interesting is you push it closed to open the sunshade because it comes from the front. It's like an ID4 does that as well. It's just a weird backwards thing. So creeping forwards in drive, very nice, 4 miles per hour. Now, if I come to a stop with auto hold off, I have to keep my foot on the brake. If I lift up, it'll start inching. Really smooth inching, by the way. If I put auto hold on, it holds us there. If I go into B mode, it holds us there. Now we're in one pedal drive. So I guess when you're from park to get into B mode, you just pull back on the shifter once, a second click, and now we have an indicated B on the screen, which you can see right here. You can also see the eye tracking flashing at me on the camera, which is very interesting. And so what we're gonna do is just inch it around the parking lot a little bit so we don't get in people's way. Ooh, it takes a long time to stop. Let's just do that one more time. So we're full off. Yeah, it like rolls for like 4 inches before it blends friction brakes. Like I mentioned, this is not a permanent magnet motor, so it has to do this blend between regen and friction. But let's come from about, I don't know, 15, 17, 18 miles an hour, full off, big regen hit. That's great. Okay, so at higher speed, it's a little bit better. That's just as good a tuning as anything out there right there. What I just experienced was awesome. That was great. Okay, so low speed stuff, great. Loving the rear steer, just loving the feel. The seat comfort is incredible. Yeah, rear steer there, perfect. Unbelievably quiet. Wow, very quiet. And we have these sound situations on. I'm just going to turn that off really quick because that's not my style. We'll try it when we drive in the mountains, but I want full sound off. This might be the quietest car I've ever been in. iX is really oddly quiet. You just can't hear the motors. It's crazy. You cannot hear the motors or anything. You hear a little bit of road imperfection. But I truly mean the most amount of sound deadening I've ever experienced. There's quiet cars and then there's no noise. And this is almost no noise. I mean, we're doing 45 miles an hour and I can hear myself whisper. That's crazy. So first, right off the bat, obviously my ears aren't fine-tuned instrumented data, but I'd love to get this through our sound analysis that we're developing for next year and see how this thing does. It's got to be one of the quietest cars ever. Holy smokes. Okay, so, you know, first impressions driving around the city. Rear steer is a little bit loose on the rear axle, similar to iX. It gives us a little bit disjointed feel when driving around, but once you get used to it and understand what's going on, it's not so bad. Throttle seems to be weighted properly. It's a bottom hinge throttle, which I really like, so I can rest my foot on the ground and just kind of roll into it. I am noticing, yep, sharp drivetrain tuning. This is a characteristic of modern BMWs, and honestly, not a good one. You see, the problem is if you're really smooth on the accelerator pedal, yeah, it's identical to iX. If you're really smooth on the accelerator pedal, the car rewards you. It's great. You don't really notice it in daily driving. But if you're just like in a pinch, you're just like, ooh, I want to go from 25% throttle to 40% throttle, it almost overcompensates too quickly and gives you this jolt. And I think what's actually happening is that it's not directly in sync with what my right foot is doing as much as I would like. So that's a gated community. I do need to make a U-turn. So let's see if we can do full New York driving here in the i7. How's blind spot? Big B-pillar, noticing. So just to turn around and check my blind spot, B-pillar's right next to my shoulder, and I sit pretty close to the wheel in general. So I wonder if you're a taller driver, if this is gonna be in the way. And again, being so thick, you really have to look back there for that window. So that's just an initial observation. Not one that's a big deal because the mirrors are quite large, which is nice. Wow. And then blending brake pedal. Strong braking performance. Car's a little soft. We actually rolled backwards there because we had kinetic energy forwards. We like stopped and then it came back. That's normal. We're going to do a full U-turn test here, of course. Turn signal's nice. Really nice, crisp turn signal. Quite loud. I almost kind of wish they turned down the volume a little bit on that because everything else is so quiet. You don't need it to be so loud. So let's do a full U-turn test here. Just coming out. Turning radius. Wow, for a big car, you've got to be kidding me. It's crazy. But again, a little bit disjointed feeling with rear steer. Very interesting. I'm just going to roll into the throttle here. Okay, good power. I mean, that's 80 some miles an hour, kilometers per hour, 80 kilometers per hour. No noise, no fuss. It almost feels slower because you're just isolated from the exterior. I cannot tell you this enough. This is the most refined vehicle I've ever been in. And I've driven all the new Rolls Royces and everything and just was driving them here. Wow, this is the jam. And in my impression, before we get into the rest of the driving, we'll do all the highway stuff here in just a minute, but my impression off of initial bat is, okay, I drive one of this car's competitors. I drive a Model S Plaid as my daily driver. This is 10 times a nicer place to be. First of all, just more room. The windshield's not in my face. The seats are wonderful. The materials are great. 100% would spec this wool interior. I've seen some of the other interiors. They're great too. My impression is high quality, really nice, until you start touching stuff. You get to these little plastic bars like I showed you in the intro, and that feels a bit chintzy, plasticky, and it's like, okay, too many Germans had too many meetings about stuff that is not needed in a car. The thing that I love about about Tesla, about Lucid even, about Rivian, these new American EV startups that have captured a lot of your attention and mine, is they're very simple. Part of it's because they're starting a car company. They can't add all this complexity and build off of years and years of production and feature-rich content. But it works to just have a simple interior. This is pretty minimalist considering where 7 Series has been. They've definitely decontented a lot of the buttons and control points, but it's still quite complicated to use, and it just doesn't feel like a truly holistic ground-up package like some of these new car companies do. So I kind of would love to see BMW's take on new user interface with the car, because that's where I think this thing's biggest weakest point is. But if we're talking about driving, if we're talking about feel, if we're talking about I want to go in this car and I just got to run a 2-hour trip, for me often it's going from Fort Collins down to Denver and back up to Fort Collins. I do this slog all the time. This would be one of the, first of all, best seating positions. That's very important to me, that I can sit nice and low in the car. Great massage seat, smokes the iX Massage. iX Massage uses air bladders. This has actual massaging points in there. It doesn't run too long, so you can also program a gesture to turn on that. So I think I'm gonna go, there's a random massage button. Let's go with random massage. It says it'll run for 60 minutes. Wow, I've been sitting in this thing setting it up for 60 minutes. We'll talk about the power and the canyons. That's actually wide open throttle calibrations, different than the iX that I spent a lot of time with, which makes sense because I was driving the M60. This is just the 60, so it doesn't have like the hardcore M tooting on it, if you will. Really, I did not know you could make a car this refined, to be totally honest with you. This is next level for sure. So I'm looking forward to driver assistance. I'm looking forward to canyons. And just to finish my previous point, I know I always ramble on the first bit of drives, but you get my first impressions right off the bat. If I compare this to EQS, Lucid Air, Porsche Taycan, Model S especially, I think is the big one here from an electric standpoint. There's no competition as to which I would rather go into and just cruise and go for a drive. This takes the cake. It feels very me. I've always been a fan of BMWs, less so in recent years as things have gotten soft and rubbery and a bit weird, but I almost feel like they have this resurgence with the electrification that's making the cars feel a little bit nicer and more holistic, I think. Great one pedal tuning. It's like they get the EV stuff, which is great. And yeah, like I fell in love with iX. i4 I didn't really fall in love with, but this is the new top, the new benchmark for me, at least in terms of just overall calibration tuning. And I've only not done anything except drive it down the street. You just get a sense that this was a huge project for them. They spent a lot of time on. Okay, off to the highway. Let's go see the noise levels there. I'm really looking forward to hearing that and trying all the driver assistance, hands-free up to 80 miles an hour or so, which should be kind of interesting as well. And now we are merging onto the highway. I still have it in just the standard personal mode, which is the startup selection right now. The nice thing is you can actually have the car start. This is so weird. I'm talking and I hear nothing from the outside. Forgive me for still just being shocked at how quiet this car never experienced anything like it. Truly, it's weird. It's like I'm in a sound chamber. There's no echo. It's crazy. So, okay, what was I even saying? I don't even know. Let's drive it on the highway. Oh, I have it in the startup mode. You can select the car to start up in any mode. So, accelerating up to speed now. I don't think the noise changed much at all, and we are going way over the speed limit. Okay, so let's go 75 miles an hour. Have to pull it down to that. I'm going to lock in assisted driving. I have the screen here in augmented reality mode, which is pretty neat. You can see this guy's pretty close to our lane, but the 7 Series actually scoots for him, I believe. So how do I go into Assist Plus? There we go. Driving Assist Plus, use only on physical divided highways. The driver is still required to monitor traffic in the system, take control as necessary. Okay, so here we're on hands-free eye tracking. And does it do lane changes? Let's see. Yes, it does. Oh, nicer than the iX too. A little bit less aggressive of a lane change. Whoa, this is freaking awesome. It's, okay, you can hear some hints of wind. We have a pretty big side wind, but only like a hint. Like this is like what I would consider to be dead quiet for most cars. At 30 miles an hour, we're doing 75. The road noise is non-existent. That's the first time I've ever experienced anything like that. The ride comfort is incredible. I actually want to try the relax drive mode. In iX, this really smooths it out a little bit more, and window shades go up, my massage changes, temperature changed in the cabin to better make the whole experience more relaxing. And as long as I watch the road, it's doing its thing. So what's the benefit of hands-free eye tracking? Well, not much in my opinion, because it's not like you can text. You can't look away. I mean, in theory, we should do that test. No one's really around us. How much can you look away for? I'm looking away, I'm texting, I'm doing a thing, I'm kind of glancing at the road a little bit, and there we go. So you get a few seconds to look away. Driver distracted, detected, stay attentive. So you can just sit back like this, and as long as your eyes are on the road, you're good. Now that, to me, is a difference from having touch on the wheel, capacitive wheel in these cars. That's a big difference. So I think I could just drive, I just want to drive across the country in this thing. I like the augmented reality. I think that's really cool. It matches up really nicely. I can change. The problem is certain of the My modes don't let you change the gauge cluster to other things. It's a little bit annoying. BMW is not allowing full customization of everything. So let's just go back to personal mode, and then you get what I like, the full gauge here. I can see my speed, I can see my percentage of power output. I got everything I need. It shows me state of charge, it shows me predicted range, it shows me outside temperature. So we're at 77%, it's predicting 212 miles. Again, these cars are just being beat on. I don't know if it will do better or worse than that. And it's even highlighting the vehicle in front of us, which is a truck. And BMWs have always had great driver assistance systems. And, you know, it actually, I think, is the leader in our hogback right now. Maybe Super Cruise took it, but the nice thing is you don't necessarily need a divided access pre-mapped highway to use lane centering. In those cases, you have to have hands-on lane centering, and you can do that anywhere, which is great. Will it automatically initiate a lane change? That's what I'm curious. So I have the speed set faster than we're going. We're coming up on this guy, obviously, and it doesn't seem to be initiating a lane change. Let's initiate it ourselves. Click the turn signal once. It accelerates before it even clears the path of the truck, and just so smoothly does it get up to speed. There's not a hint of lane wobble. It's so competent, so comfortable. And I haven't posted the video yet by the time this goes up, but I took a BMW iX on a 3,000 mile road trip, and this is actually a different driver assistance system than what's in the iX. Slightly different sensors. This is using LiDAR actually in conjunction with radar and camera, so really a lot going on here. And I thought the iX was just amazing. Couple little things I didn't like. You can't adjust the distance to the car in front of you here on the steering wheel. It's sort of like you have to say, I generally like to be close or far to cars deep in the system, and then it lets you do that. But otherwise, I thought, okay, just in terms of its usability on the road, I used it 99% of the time, very little issues, almost no phantom braking, just an incredible system. And this is the next level, incorporating this LiDAR component. Now, some BMWs only in North America allow for hands-free eye tracking in traffic. I think it's called Driver Assistant Plus. Same system we're using here, but that's a traffic limitation. Really smooth. When that Jeep went out of the way, it saw the X1 and came down. Loving this. And those cars, what's amazing, it's not approved in Europe, but here it is. You can go hands-free in traffic, and that's a pretty good system, but 35 or 40 miles an hour cap, I forget which, you run into that very quickly. Here, up to 80 miles an hour, this is a usable system, and I feel very confident. It's very communicative as to what it's telling me. Yeah, I mean, you guys are watching it do its thing right now. I'm sitting back, fully relaxed, cool as a cucumber, and honestly, a smoother acceleration, deceleration than autopilot, better lane centering. Now, the big thing that Tesla has as an advantage is constant over-the-air software updates, and potentially the promise of more than just level 2 driver assistance, which this is like level 2 plus, which isn't really a thing, but let's consider it a thing. This is where that is. Tesla obviously has higher ambitions, and they're doing some pretty incredible things in my opinion. But in terms of like, let's focus on what's available today to be used for highway cruising. This has to be the best system. I can't wait to run it in the Hogback. I've never experienced something so competent, other than probably Super Cruise. Super Cruise is kind of like this, but I think also the 7 Series is making this entire drive so much more comfortable that it's just like mind blown. And let's talk about the comfort of the car a little bit. I cannot feel a thing. I don't feel any bumps in the road. I don't even know if they're bumps. I don't even feel like we're driving. It must have active noise cancellation because it's so quiet. I kind of get a little bit of the sensation when you put like noise canceling headphones on. Like I'm watching cars go by. A plane flew overhead earlier, and you're just using your eyes as reference points. I can't hear that car driving by. I can't hear that truck at full throttle up the hill. There must, you heard a little exhaust there. That's the first thing we heard was a V8. It's incredible how much is canceled out. So my guess is it's really well built, really well insulated and isolated, but also there has to be a noise canceling component because, again, I get that, a little bit of that just underlying tone. Maybe it's just the sound of silence, but it's pretty insane. That's all I have to say about this. It's insane. I have the best seat I've ever sat in, big massage, super I don't even want to pass this truck. Who cares? I'm happy going slow when it's this comfortable. Let's do a right lane. So it doesn't accelerate if you go to the right until you clear the path of the vehicle in front. Should we just kick it off of this and see if we can do some BMW driving for a second? So let's just go big power, no turn signal because we're in a BMW, a little shake from the steering wheel. But if you want to be a BMW driver, you still can. And wow, the power up top's pretty good. Obviously, there's going to be a higher performance version than this one coming down the line. It's called the M70. I also like that BMW is reserving the top performing model to be a fully electric 7 Series. But let's go up to, let's see, 80 miles an hour, Assist Plus, activated, we're good. And the way that I know that it's eye tracking are these two lights in the steering wheel here indicate that it's green. We cannot pay attention. Can we go faster than 80 miles an hour on Assist Plus? Oh, they told me 80, but we're doing 82 right now. How about 83, 4, 5? We're doing 85, hands-free. Can we go faster? 90. Oh, it's limited to 85 miles an hour, so there we go. But it will do lane centering to, I believe, 210 kilometers per hour, which is 110 miles per hour, something like that. So, yeah, plus or minus, plenty of speed. Another thing that's a benefit over some competition where the Germans always have really high speed lane centering and adaptive cruise because Autobahns, but it's really nice out where we live in Colorado going through Wyoming, just setting the cruise at 90 in an 85 zone, let's just say. It's nice to retain cruise control. In my Model S, I can't even set cruise as high as I want to go sometimes, and so this is really, really wonderful. The one thing I do want to just play around with a little bit is this adaptive regen thing. So right now I'm in drive and it's totally coasting, but if I accelerate hard up behind this Camry and I lift off, you'll see we're getting quite a bit of regen. It kind of stands on its nose a little bit, and now it's backing off. And we're back to full coast. Of course, full coasting is the most efficient way to drive because there's no losses putting energy back into the battery pack or not. The one thing I've never really gotten fully accustomed to with adaptive regen, though, is sometimes I feel like it fools me into thinking adaptive cruise is on, and maybe it doesn't bring you to a stop. Now, I haven't tested this car in all the scenarios. It's one of the things I'd like to do when I spend, a week or two with it in the near future to really play around with all of that. But I kind of dig the adaptive cruise, at least on the highway, where I can like come up on someone pretty quick, lift off, nice regen hit, even the little forward collision car comes up, and now we're back to full coasting. It's just letting me know we're a bit too close. I love that. That's kind of cool. So since we're on the highway, we should talk about sort of stability, high speed stuff. So this maybe isn't the best place to test a quick lane change, but just, oh yeah, very nice. And that is not even anything aggressive. That's just like, okay, this thing's wide and long. and obviously very competent at anything high speed related. Top speed, I believe, 149 miles per hour, somewhere in that region. I'll overlay it here if I'm wrong, but in the US it doesn't matter. In Europe, I think it's limited to 240 kph, which is 150 miles per hour, plus or minus. Wow. Let's talk charging curve and all of that stuff, because that's really important for... I cannot believe how quiet it is. I'm so sorry. We're on concrete right now and there's barely anything coming in. Charging is really important for road tripping and range. So 195 kilowatt peak charging rate. It's a relatively low voltage pack, I think 380 volt nominal. And so what it does is it goes full, you know, assuming all conditions are fine. By the way, there is manual preconditioning for the battery pack. So if you're using Apple CarPlay and you don't have a a charging point selected in the native app, you can manually precondition, which is great. So you get the battery nice and toasty for your charging session. You roll up there, you plug in low. By the way, it will do automatic preconditioning, of course, if you use the native app, and it will run constant current. It's a constant current, constant voltage charging curve, CCCV, and it's smoother than iX. I like this charging curve on this car because, okay, I get it, it's a 400 volt, even less system architecture, so you have to use the 350 kilowatt chargers to get the most out of it. Of course you can plug into a 150, but you're going to get relatively low power. So you need the full 500 amps. It runs that to about 30% state of charge where it peaks, and then it just rounds its way off and just holds the pack at top voltage. They claim 10 to 80% in 34 minutes. Certainly not a charging monster, and that's where this car starts to fall behind, especially when we compare it to Tesla Model S and Taycan for long distance ability. My impression is those cars are probably in the same region of efficiency, but with much faster charging. So we have to do all the tests. I'd like to do a luxury EV sort of road trip race like we did our race to Vegas. I'd like to include this car. I'd like to do EQS, Taycan, Model S, maybe Lucid Air as well. And yeah, definitely see what that's all about in terms of charging and speed relative to each other, because that's always an important metric. But just to wrap up the highway portion, 10 out of 10 on the driver assistance system. That's pretty impressive. Really can't wait to live with this and take this car on a road trip. 15 out of 10 on the noise quality. Insane. I think the real downside here is the charging speeds aren't great, and it requires using a 350 kilowatt charger because you need the 500 amps at that low pack voltage to get up the power. We're seeing a lot of cars do this. I think the sweet spot's a 400 volt system architecture. I'm a bit bummed that it's a little bit lower voltage here, but okay, not the end of the world. Still seems pretty reasonable, and maybe we'll even hit a fast charger in this video just to see what it does. But yeah, you could not find me more impressed with a car. Smokes EQS in terms of just desirability, noise performance, and comfort. Smokes Lucid Air in terms of you know, noise performance for sure. Interior quality, in my opinion, Lucid's better than Tesla, but this is just a whole nother league. And everything about highway driving is better than. And I own a Model S, so I can say it's better than the Model S. And I love my Model S, don't get me wrong, but this is next level stuff right here. This is pretty crazy. If you have like a long highway commute and you just want to have the ultimate car to commute in, you're looking at it. Every time I drive one of these luxury EVs, I keep saying that, but I've never seen such a step change coming into the 7. So we've driven it around the city, very nimble with rear steer, quite good placement on the road, good visibility except for the B pillar, I would say, and when the shades are up, you cannot see anything out of the back, and I don't believe there's a way to pull up a digital rear view mirror, which is a bit of a shame. So I'm going to open all blinds here because I think it's probably a bit dangerous to drive with the blinds up. The other thing is there's also a theater screen in this particular vehicle, which can be operated somewhere deep in the menus that I kind of forgot how to get to. So let's see if I can find that. Or I could just ask BMW. Lower the BMW theater screen.
Great is Tower Theater. The Tower Theater.
Not it. Don't want to go there. She thought I was asking to go somewhere.
Continue on the road for 3 miles.
So yeah, not sure, but when this is down at least, and I'll show you that, or I already probably showed you that in the walk around, you cannot see a thing out the back. So yeah, amazing highway cruiser. The best thing I've ever driven on the highway from a noise and comfort performance. Very comfortable saying that without question. And I think a lot of it's active cancellation. The next is great in the city, and now we're going to go see how dynamic it is, how fun it is, and take the canyon route back, which should be hopefully pretty good. I don't know if it's the most important thing that this handles well and brakes well and does all that stuff, but it's a 7. It needs to do it. And my impression is just couldn't be happier. It's really just, dare I say, perfect almost. I don't know how you would improve on this. This is insane. Let's see, let's take the vehicle out of raising mode. Ground clearance will return to a normal level. Let's activate sport mode. So we're in sport mode, and I've tuned sport mode. There's a whole bunch of settings within sport, which is drivetrain in sport, driving dynamics in the middle, which is like dynamic traction control sport plus mode is what they call it. Steering in sport, damping in sport, and the seats come in. So this is where we did the EQS full launch control. I don't know if this car is launch control because it's not an M variant, but let's try it. I'm going to drive in B mode. So left foot hard on the brake, flooring it with the right. No launch control, holds at 50%. So smooth. Gives full power at about, wow, 50 miles an hour. Really ramps up. And it just pitches straight up to the moon. It must look so impressive from the outside, but this thing does not launch very hard at all. That you can tell that's not the intention. You can also tell they left a lot of room on the table for the M70 version, and I hate to admit it, but I'm pretty sure they nerfed this car because the 760i, the combustion one, makes the exact same power as this. And so I'm like, I think they detuned it, so the 60s are at the same level, and then the M70 will be the top one. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm always a fan of just maximizing whatever you put in the car. So let's see how it actually drives. First of all, I just want to adjust my steering wheel position a little bit, but okay. It's a big car, but holy smokes, so much less body roll, so much less front heaviness than the combustion one that I drove in terms of dynamics. It's a heavy car, almost 6,000 pounds, but surprisingly, initial impression is quite agile. And I mean, I just looked down at the speeds that we're going, and it's pretty impressive. I wonder if there's different screens we can pull up. Let's just take a little second here to look. Range prediction, trip data, augmented reality, map data, G-force. Yeah, I guess let's put it on G-force. I don't know. G-meter. That should not be in a 7 Series, but it is. Stuff's flying around. So already not liking the throttle lash. When I lift off the throttle, it really pops off like i4. Just kind of flexes on the mounts a little bit much. They need a little bit of drivetrain smoothing. It's better than iX, better than i4 in terms of harshness, but if you go down on the pedal, it's really quite jolty. So the thing with a BMW EV is you need to be very mindful to basically just control your pedal movements smoothly. Here we are sending it into a corner. Wow, incredible grip actually. That's pretty impressive. Did not expect that much grip there. Here we are, full power coming out. No noises, no vibrations. They've done a lot for thermal management with the drivetrain here, and so obviously you can overheat it quicker than a combustion drivetrain. That's always a downside of electric. I don't think people are really buying this thing to shred canyons or to go to track days and stuff like that, but I would say, yeah, way more dynamic than even the AMG EQS, which I wasn't that impressed with on this road. I kept complaining about the brake pedal. It felt a little heavy. I mean, it was fast and sticky and like the numbers were big, but this feels almost light on its feet. It like wants to dance. It wants to have some fun. It's very planted. We haven't even reached the limit of grip, not even nearly, but that's even 0.82 G lateral, and that's not the limit of grip. So almost 1 G of road holding here, and it's not even warm outside. What's the temperature? 52 degrees. So tires are hockey pucks. That's pretty impressive to me, I have to say. We're at 3,000 feet of elevation. My ears are popping. No degradation of performance with elevation in an electric car, which is always a little party trick. Living up at altitude in Colorado, EVs are even faster than they are at sea level because everything else gets slower. And actually, they probably even are actually faster at altitude because there's a little less air density up here. So you're good there to just kind of beat everyone. But wow, just look at the way I put in one steering input and it just tracks so perfectly. Just has this nice little rear steer helping out. Very premium, very refined, very as you would expect for a 7 Series. This is not a typical driving experience you would have in a non-German vehicle. This is something I actually think only the Germans can do at this point. I've driven all the Genesis stuff. It's very impressive. It's very feature rich, but there is this underlying feeling that like 50 Klauses worked on chassis tuning from everywhere from city all the way up to full, you know, max handling characteristics, and it's all been optimized, tuned, and really nicely calibrated for this stuff. And I am just loving the way this car cruises. Even behind this Honda Pilot, it just feels nice, like it wants to turn. It's one of the BMWs for the last, I don't know, 10 years of darkness, should we say, really were not good drivers' cars. I'm sorry, but there was an exception. 2 Series was amazing. Maybe a 3 was good, but like 5 got really soft. The last 7 it was okay, but like things were getting not looking good at BMW, from my opinion. And this electric big luxury sedan is like encouraging me to like, let's go send it through some canyons here. Wow. Agile. Loves directional changes. Full send out of a corner. I mean, really full send here. Big speeds. Using hard brakes. You just don't hear anything. You don't even hear tread shaw from the tires. The loudest thing I hear is my laptop flying around the back seat. So I do notice even going flat out of corners, it's doing the I4 thing where it's kind of limiting power based off of steering angle. So what I really am looking for is perhaps going full ESP off. So let's try that. We'll go settings, we'll go driving dynamics, DSC completely off. And so now it should, yeah, now definitely gives full power with steering angle. So that's the move for the most part. Wow, this is a joy to drive this car on this road. It definitely like isn't my first choice to come and go canyon carving, of course. It's not a very emotional experience. It's a very competent one, but it's not like I'm rowing gears and really getting a lot of experience. It's just like, oh, I live at top of the mountain and I really need to get there very quickly. It's not actually that fast, which is kind of funny. I mean, it puts on the speed perfectly fine, but when you compare it to some of its competition, it's really kind of lacking in the overall full power department, which is maybe okay. I mean, certainly, I don't think anyone buying this is going to complain about it being slow. I'm just in this weird position where I drive a lot of cars back to back. Yeah, honestly, even there with ESP off or DSC full off, it was doing a little power limitation. You know, honestly, what it could be doing is 4,000 feet of elevation. We just got up here. What it could be doing is also a little bit of brake-paced torque vectoring, and that ultimately will limit your total power output. So, wow, nice homes up here, really kind of beautiful. That was like a solar-powered house over there. But yeah, I mean, we're not going slow right now, and we're just like wafting in full luxury. I mean, this is the definition of luxury, and part of that is just being able to be good at kind of everything. And with dual motor, it's very, you know, should be pretty good in the snow. BMWs have always been pretty good in the snow with xDrive. My impression, I always liked that they were a little bit rear biased. The rear motor makes more power than the front motor by about 100 horsepower plus or minus, and so when you come out of a corner, you don't get this very 50-50 weight distribution or power distribution that you kind of get in the i4. This actually kind of wants to help you rotate and get out of a corner, which I really enjoy. And I'm really surprised at how competent and how big the speeds are until we start reaching even near the limits, which we haven't even explored that much. It's just like, okay, they really spent the time to tune this thing and to do it properly. So that's impressive to me, I would say. But still, the biggest, most impressive thing is the way this thing sits on the highway. I've never experienced that before. And there you have it. The 7 Series is a joy to drive. I'm glad you're able to join me on this incredible road. What a shame I have to drive it the whole way back on this road. Maybe you want to join me for a little bit more of the drive. But I just couldn't imagine a more beautiful place to drive this. This is insane. And yeah, what a really cool experience to be up here in the 7. on top of the world, if you will. Wow, the views are stunning. And to me, I much prefer this over EQS in terms of handling. Lucid Air handles really well, in my opinion. That's honestly probably a bit more agile than this car is. But the thing with Lucid Air is their software, at least from my experience, just wasn't finished. And the build quality of the car was nowhere near where this thing is. Just nowhere near it. So if you factor everything, you know, let's just, because I think that's really the main topic here. We shouldn't really compare this to combustion S-Class, or excuse me, combustion 7 Series. I think most people are going to be looking at, you know, other electric sedans in this category. And my impression is this at least captures my heart the most. You know, I really love my Model S for the sheer acceleration. This does not give you that feeling at all. It's certainly not slow. It's quick. You put people in this car and they'll be like, oh my God, this is crazy. But that's people who don't drive a Plaid every day. And so I'm definitely a little bit spoiled with that car. But if I ultimately decide to trade the Plaid, you know, for me, Taycan still is a little bit more hardcore. That's probably more my style. But if I had to do a lot of highway miles, which I'm having to do less and less these days because I end up flying places more, but if I was doing a lot of highway miles, this would be way up at the top of the list, just in terms of how comfortable it is. And maybe I would give up some of that charging time, maybe I would give up some of that overall road trip time to have a more luxurious experience, which no question this would give over any of the other cars. And they're all very good. They're, you know, we're talking about the cream of the crop here, going EQS, Model S, Taycan, Lucid Air, and this i7. But wow, I just think the other automakers better benchmark this car as hard as they can, because everything about it is truly impressive. So yeah, ESP is still on, even with DSC off. I can still feel it pulsing brakes here and there, but that's okay. The M70 will be the one that really matters from a performance standpoint, but it's not like we're going slow through here. It's really good. Wow. A couple other notes now that I've had it on some twisty roads for a little while now. This car also has a 48-volt suspension leveling system that basically uses actuators to control roll stability of the car, or roll stiffness. So when you go into a corner, the car just turns. There's no body roll. What that also means is you get the same effect on a smooth road of basically a full sway bar disconnect, and it will physically disconnect. So you can let each wheel do its thing and you're not getting jostled left to right. That's part of why this ride quality is totally insane. Each of the four wheels can be independently linked or unlinked depending on how much roll stiffness you want, or just everything to flex and roll. And you really notice it on broken pavement. I've primarily been on nice pavement, but I just had it on a stretch of a lot of bumps and undulations, and it was just like, you get a sense that the wheels are doing a bunch of stuff underneath you and we're just going dead flat and dead straight. The other thing I want to mention is under hard braking scenarios, B mode uses a lot of regen, of course, but there are situations where you want more than what B mode can have. The brake pedal itself is so good, I cannot tell where the blending point is from regen to friction. It's a responsive brake pedal, it's great, and it feels really good. Now, of course, I'm gonna end the video with a full ABS test to show you what that's like, but just as an impression as to suspension, turn in, brake feel, all of these things are like, yep, no, they got it right. It's as it should be. This is certainly not a track monster. It's not meant to be, but on a road like this, it doesn't mind being sort of hustled through some pretty amazing corners. And just the level of capability here is as you would expect from a 7 Series. It needs to be the sportiest of the executive sedans, if you will, between A8, of course, 7 and S-Class. This has always been the sporty one, and I think they did a really good job retaining that true to form BMW DNA. What I can't wait is to see all of the i7 technology drip down into i5, and there's a new i3 for China, which is a 3 Series sedan that's fully electric. I guess similar to the i4, I'm not totally sure actually. But yeah, I'm just really impressed with this car on a back road. Feels worth more than what the number says on paper. Or maybe I should say okay, I spent, my Model S, I keep coming back to that because that's this car's main competitor. Very rarely do I review a car that I own the direct competitor to, and this just feels like so much more car. You're losing raw acceleration, the amazing supercharger network, and charging speeds when you're at the network, but everything else here is really good. Different, I guess, concepts though. The Model S does get much more over-the-air updates than I expect this car to get, although I still think BMW is going to support this car pretty well. There's no way they're going to do it Tesla level. But then you get things like CarPlay. I mean, I don't know. It's give and take in every area. Well, there you have it. The i7. Just a truly mind-blowing experience coming from someone who's driven all of the competition to this car, spent a lot of miles in it. And, I would highly recommend this vehicle. And you might ask, should you go iX or i7? This is the next step above iX, which was already the step above everything else in terms of build quality and fit and finish and feel, and I think the car looks pretty good. So there you have it, my i7 first drive review. So thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. I hope you enjoyed this one. The last thing we need to do is a full braking test because we haven't done that yet. So I want to feel how the brake pedal, interacts with the ABS feedback. A lot of brake-by-wire systems sometimes don't even give you ABS feedback. So let's just do a full emergency stop. Here we go. Incredible braking performance and really nice brake pedal feel, and I could feel it pulsing through the pedal. It's an electronic pulse. It's very similar to Volvo's feel that way and other cars that use electric brake pedals, but nice. See you on another one soon. Bye-bye.